There is a city in Texas that is not Houston and not San Antonio and not Austin. Dallas. The Big D population 1.3 million in the city, 7.5 million in the Metroplex. The city of big hair, big deals, and the most attended state fair in America. A fair where two former vaudeville performers invented a food category in 1942 that America has been eating at carnivals and county fairs ever since. Dallas, where oil money and cattle culture and Mexican-American tradition and Southern food all collide at the intersection of five major interstate highways and produce something that is not quite any one of those things, and very specifically, all of them. It is May 11th, 1971. Mariano Martinez is having a bad night. He has just opened Mariano's Mexican Cuisine in the Old Town Shopping Center in Dallas, 5 minutes from Southern Methodist University. His father's margarita recipe is the house specialty. The restaurant is popular. The problem is the margaritas. Made by hand in a single blender, they are inconsistent. Some are watery, some are not cold enough. Customers are complaining. The bartenders cannot keep up with demand. Mariano is losing sleep. On the way home that night, he stops at a 7-Eleven for coffee. He sees children at the Slurpee machine. He watches the frozen carbonated liquid dispensed perfectly and consistently at the pull of a lever. He thinks, what if you could freeze a margarita in a machine like that? He bought a used soft-serve ice cream machine from a warehouse. 7-Eleven refused to sell him one of their Slurpee machines. He adapted his father's recipe for the frozen format. He added his father's insistence on Cointreau as the triple sec. He pulled the lever on May 11th, 1971. Out came a perfectly consistent, perfectly frozen, icy green margarita. The machine was an immediate success. SMU students discovered it. Word spread. Other Dallas Tex-Mex restaurants copied the concept. Within a decade, the frozen margarita machine was in bars and restaurants across Texas. Within 2 decades, it was in 46 countries. Mariano never received a patent. He never trademarked the design. The machine spread without restriction because he didn't think to protect it. The credit belongs to heritage and technology, he said decades later. His original machine, the adapted soft-serve machine from the warehouse, has been in the collection of the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History since 2005. Bob Hope performed at SMU in the early 1970s and joked about the margarita he'd had at Mariano's. I won't say how big it was, but the glass they serve it in had a diving board on it, and they salt the edge of the glass with a paint roller. In 1938, brothers Neil and Carl Fletcher were winding down long careers in vaudeville. They had spent years performing at the State Fair of Texas in a show called The Drunkard. When the fair offered them a food booth, they took it. Over a bottle of bourbon, they tried to figure out what to sell. Neil remembered a baker on Oak Lawn Avenue who served hot dogs baked in cornmeal, shaped like an ear of corn. It tasted good but was complicated and time-consuming. You needed a knife and fork to eat it. The brothers had a different idea. They put the hot dog on a stick. They dipped it in cornmeal batter. They dropped it in hot oil. Now it was mobile. Now it was fast. Now you could walk around the fair eating it. The corn dog, the Fletcher brothers called it a corny dog, was born. They debuted at the 1942 State Fair of Texas for 15 cents apiece. The response was restrained. The brothers had to cut them in half and give away free samples before people would try them. They went through a series of names: K9, Brown Bomber, French Fried Hot Dog, Meal on a Stick. Finally, Corny Dog. It took 12 years to perfect the batter. The recipe hasn't changed since. The water temperature, the mixing method, the specific proportions. These are family secrets that have been passed from Neil Sr. to his sons to his grandchildren. The family is now in its 3rd generation at the fair. Over 500,000 corny dogs are sold annually during the 24 days of the State Fair of Texas. That's 60,000 pounds of hot dogs. Fletcher's goes through 1,500 gallons of mustard and 800 gallons of ketchup during the fair. Ketchup was only introduced in 1994 due to customer demand. The family position has always been that mustard is correct. Chicken fried steak is a Texas institution, and Dallas has been the city where Texas institutions go to become monuments. A chicken fried steak is a beef cutlet, typically a cube steak, tenderized mechanically, dredged in seasoned flour, dipped in egg, coated in flour again, and fried in oil until the crust is golden and crackling, exactly like fried chicken. It is served with cream gravy, white, thick, made from the pan drippings with milk and black pepper, and with mashed potatoes, green beans, and a biscuit. The origins are disputed. Some trace it to German immigrants in central Texas who adapted their Wiener Schnitzel to the local beef and the local taste for gravy. Some trace it to Czech immigrants. The most common origin story places it in a small Texas diner in the 1880s or 1890s, when a cook applied fried chicken technique to a tough piece of beef and discovered that the result was extraordinary. In Dallas, chicken fried steak is the lunch of the working city. At Norma's Cafe, which has been serving it since 1956, at Ellen's Southern Kitchen in the Design District, at the kind of meat and 3 lunch counters that have been feeding Dallas office workers for decades. The cream gravy cannot be skimped on. A chicken fried steak without sufficient cream gravy is a philosophical error. Dallas does not make this error. Dr. Pepper was not invented in Dallas. It was invented in Waco, Texas, 100 miles south, in 1885. But Dallas is where Dr. Pepper became a national institution because Big Red Bottling, the Texas bottler that helped distribute Dr. Pepper across the country, operated out of Dallas, and because Dallas is where the culture that embraced Dr. Pepper most completely took root. Charles Alderton, a pharmacist at Morrison's Old Corner drugstore in Waco, invented the formula in 1885. He called it Dr. Pepper. The drink was presented to America at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis and became a national sensation. By the mid-20th century, Dr. Pepper was the regional soda of Texas in the way that Cheerwine is the regional soda of the Carolinas. The Dr. Pepper Museum in Waco tells the origin story. The culture in Dallas tells the rest. Dr. Pepper is on every menu, at every gas station, in every home refrigerator. The specific 23-flavor formula that Alderton developed has never been fully disclosed. The drink tastes unlike anything else. Vaguely cherry, vaguely spiced, vaguely medicinal in the best possible way. Every October, the State Fair of Texas opens in Dallas at Fair Park, a 277-acre grounds that has been hosting the fair since 1886. Big Tex, the 55-foot talking cowboy statue, greets visitors at the entrance. The Fletcher's Corny Dog Stand has the longest line, and somewhere on the fairgrounds, a new fried food is being served for the first time. The Big Tex Choice Awards, the annual competition to name the best new fair food, is the most anticipated food event in Texas. Each year, vendors submit new fried creations for judging. Past winners include Fried Butter on a Stick, 2009, Fried Beer, 2010, Fried Thanksgiving Dinner, 2012, Fried Breakfast, 2013, Fried Sriracha Balls, 2014, Deep Fried Doritos, 2021. The competition to invent the next great state fair food has produced more creative fried food innovation than any other event in America. The rules are minimal. The food must be new, must be fried in some capacity, and must be served on a stick when possible. Everything else is open. The results are sometimes brilliant, sometimes terrible, and always entertaining. The State Fair of Texas draws over 2 million visitors annually, the largest state fair attendance in the country. The economic impact is over $400 million. Dallas is not a barbecue city the way Austin is a barbecue city. Austin has Franklin Barbecue, the most famous barbecue restaurant in America, and a barbecue culture that has been written about in every food publication in the country. Dallas has something different. The barbecue of the working city, built by African-American pitmasters who developed the Dallas style over decades, largely outside the gaze of national food media. Sonny Bryan's Smokehouse is the oldest barbecue institution in Dallas, opened by William Jennings, Sonny Bryan Sr. in 1910, expanded by his son in 1958, expanded again to multiple locations. The original location on Inwood Road has 12 seats. President Bill Clinton ate there. The line on weekend mornings runs out the door. The brisket is the thing. Dallas-style brisket is not the Central Texas post-oak brisket of Austin. It is smokier, saucier, served with more of the sweet and tangy Dallas barbecue sauce that is its own tradition. Dallas Tex-Mex is not San Antonio Tex-Mex. This distinction matters to people from both cities. San Antonio's Tex-Mex descends directly from the chili queens, from the Mexican-American communities of the West Side, from a food culture built over 300 years of Spanish and Mexican and Tejano cooking. It is older, more specific, more directly tied to the Mexican cooking it came from. Dallas Tex-Mex developed later and differently, shaped by the Mexican-American communities of Oak Cliff and East Dallas, by the waves of immigration through the 20th century, by the specific Dallas appetite for large portions and elaborate combinations in queso that arrives before everything else. The queso, chile con queso, melted processed cheese with green chiles, served with chips as the mandatory table start at every Dallas Tex-Mex restaurant, is Dallas's most specific contribution to the genre. The queso debate between cities is ongoing and intense. San Antonio queso is different from Dallas queso. Dallas queso tends to be made with Velveeta or processed cheese, which is correct, because processed cheese melts smoothly and maintains its texture in a way that natural cheese does not. This is not a compromise. This is the right choice. Matitos, El Fenix, founded 1918, El Chico, the restaurants that built Dallas Tex-Mex culture over a century have fed millions of people the food that the city considers its own. Whataburger was not invented in Dallas. It was invented in Corpus Christi, Texas, in 1950 by a man named Harmon Dobson who wanted to make a burger so big it required two hands to hold. But Dallas is where Whataburger became a cultural institution, where the orange and white striped A-frame buildings became a landscape fixture, where the chain reached its greatest density and deepest loyalty. In Dallas, Whataburger is not a fast food chain. It is a civic institution. It is where you go at 2 a.m. after anything. The honey butter chicken biscuit at breakfast, the patty melt on Texas toast, the green chili double, a regional menu item available only in Texas. The spicy ketchup, which Dallas people bring home in bottles and keep in the refrigerator next to the salsa. The Whataburger at 3 a.m. is a specific Dallas experience. The restaurant is open 24 hours. The dining room is bright and clean and filled with people who have been out all night and need something that is not McDonald's. The Whataburger bun is toasted. The beef is fresh, never frozen. The burger is assembled to order. In Dallas, this is the standard. Everywhere else is the comparison. Pecan pie is a southern dessert. But it is more specifically a Texas dessert. And within Texas, it is more specifically a Dallas restaurant menu staple that has been ordered at the end of every Tex-Mex meal, every steakhouse dinner, and every Thanksgiving in the city for generations. The pecan is Texas's state tree. Texas produces more pecans than any other state. The pecan pie, corn syrup, eggs, butter, sugar, and Texas pecans in a pastry shell, is the dessert that belongs to Texas in the way that key lime pie belongs to Florida and chess pie belongs to Virginia. In Dallas, pecan pie appears everywhere, at Norma's Cafe, where it has been on the menu since 1956. At Celebration Restaurant, the vegetarian restaurant that has been serving it since 1971. At the chain, Tex-Mex restaurants that include it in the combination plate dessert options. At every church supper and every holiday table in the city. Dallas is a city that takes credit for things and is usually right to do so. The frozen margarita machine is in the Smithsonian. The corny dog is at every state fair in America. The Tex-Mex culture that Dallas built over a century is the template that most of the country knows as Tex-Mex, even if they've never been to Texas. The state fair that Dallas hosts every October is the largest in the country and has been inventing new fried foods every year since before most Americans were born. This is a city of scale. Everything in Dallas is larger. The portions, the fair, the margaritas, the ambition. The Big Tex cowboy statue is 55 feet tall because Texas does not build 30-foot cowboy statues. The brisket plate comes with multiple sides because Dallas does not believe in restraint when it comes to barbecue. Not every city has a cocktail machine in the Smithsonian because the man who invented it stopped at a 7-Eleven on a bad night. Not every city's corn dog took 12 years of batter research by vaudeville performers before it was ready to sell. Not every city's Tex-Mex has a queso that defines the category for an entire region.